watch. This table breaks it down to say which of these records came from the watch and which came from the phone, because there are some which overlap.
So what you're saying is the prior table showed the 4 flights of stairs being climbed at the same time within seconds, which isn't rational. But this breaks it down to show some of that data is coming from the watch and some of it's coming from the phone, correct?
Correct. So if we look at records 4 and 5 here, for example, we can see a start time of 10:17:27 and an end time of 10:27:06, where the watch recorded 2 flight climbs, and then 1 second later a start time and 2 seconds later for the end time, we see the watch also detected 2 flight climbs. This is just the same 2 flight climb events that happened, but both devices recorded those flight climbs with slightly different timestamps.
And that will happen if I'm wearing my watch and I have my phone in my pocket and I go up the stairs?
That's correct.
Did you do something to compare these times and make a table where where you ignored or disregarded the double entries?
I did. I tried to correlate and discard all of the duplicate information. So where there was an event of a flight climb that was recorded on the watch and the phone, rather than provide information that said there was 2 flight climbs, I would ignore one of them and limit it to just the ones which we could prove happened.
And that's displayed here in this chart at the bottom of page 7 of your report?
Correct.
Going to page 8 of your report, we have here at the top of page 8, does that show the last flight climbs recorded on either the defendant's phone or watch?
It does. It shows that there was additional flight climb events logged by the phone, which were not logged by the watch, at 17:03 and 17:33.
So these records indicate that at 5:03 p.m., the defendant's iPhone was with the person as it went up the stairs, and then at 5:33 p.m., the iPhone was with the person as it went up the 2 flights of stairs.
Correct.
And there's a time difference there. The start time is 5:33 p.m. and the end time is 5:38 p.m. For 2 flights of stairs. So that's roughly 5 minutes in between the 2 flights. Is there a way to explain that length of time?
The way the Apple Health data records this information, aggregates it, it tries to group events together. So in this case, it would have recognized that there was a flight climb on the phone at around 17:33:34 and a second one at around 17:38:33, and it just grouped them both into one event. It doesn't mean that it took 5 minutes to walk up 2 flights of stairs. It's just within that 5-minute period there were 2 flight climbs.
So if I have my phone in my pocket and I climb up a flight of stairs and then I spend a few minutes on that floor and then still with my phone in my pocket go up another flight of stairs, that's representative of what we're seeing here at 5:33?
Correct. There tends to be around a 10-minute window where it tries to check every 10 minutes, but it can reduce that window in a case like this where it sees that there's group data within a smaller time period.
And then further down on page 8, we have another table here, which seems to have combined data of heart rate and flight climb data. Is that correct?
Correct.
Did you also look at web usage on the extraction of the defendant's phone?
I did, yes.
And what did you do to look at the web usage on the phone, and what time frame did you look at?
For web usage, I expanded the time of interest to early January to the 24th of January, and just took a look at any web history over that time. There was over 1,300 records recovered. I took a cursory look down that list and highlighted some which potentially were relevant to the case, and then provided the 1,300 actual records as a appendix report.
And going to page 12 of your report, looks like you started here on January 10th, 2023, is that correct?
That's correct.
And basically here you list various searches that occurred on each day between January 10th and January 24th from the extraction, is that correct?
That's correct. Broken down by day with the time of the search, the website that was visited, the title of the web page, and then the identifier in the database.
And looking at these searches, on January 12th, 2023, at 19:48, so that would be 7:48 p.m., is that correct?
Correct.
There was a search. In the title it says, "How quickly does Wellbutrin work for depression?" Is that the title? Is that what the user is putting into the search?
If I could see the search, please.
I'll zoom in on that.
Yes, so the top entry here we can see starts with https www.google.com/search !Q. The text after the Q, how quickly does Wellbutrin work, is what the user searched. Typically that is exactly as the user typed it, assuming that there are no auto-completions in place. In this particular case, it appears it was searched using Safari, so there's no auto-completion. That is essentially what the user typed in. And then the title, how quickly does Wellbutrin, I can't say that word, I'm afraid. Wellbutrin, thank you. Work for depression, Google search, is the title of the page which Google assigns.
So where it says after the Q, how plus, quickly plus, does plus, the user's not putting in those pluses, correct? Is that, what were you calling those?
So that's part of the attribute. It's how the data is encoded in a URL or in a web search. You can't have spaces within this address string, so they replace the spaces with the plus symbol.
So I type in how quickly does, and the computer adds the pluses in space marks?
Yes, it's URL encoding to make it safe for the browser.
And then at 7:49, there's a search for Lamictal for depression.
Yes, and depression spelled with a B at the end instead of an N, which demonstrates that this is what the user typed in rather than a page that was being visited.
And then a few minutes later at 7:55 p.m., the user typed in Elavil for depression, correct?
Correct.
And then on page 16, on January 18th, 2023, at 10:25, we have a search there, ketamine for suicidal ideation, is that correct?
Correct.
And again, that's the user typing that in?
Yeah, again, those words were typed in by the user.
And then on January 19th, 2023, on page 17 of your report, We have symptoms of postpartum psychosis searched on January 19th.
Correct.
And again, so we're looking at, this is AM, correct? 9:24 AM that was searched?
Yes, the morning.
And then 9:30 AM, there's another search for psychosis symptoms?
Yes.
Going back to that same page, page 17, at the bottom for January 24th, we have here searches for Kids Miralax at 4:02 p.m. and Takeout 3V at 4:13 p.m. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then CVS Pharmacy at 4:47 p.m. Correct?
Correct.
There was also an Apple note that you found in the records, correct?
There was.
The Apple note, in your report, it says it was created on December 22nd, 2022 at 10:23 a.m. Strike that. And then modified at 10:23 a.m. on January 23rd, 2023, correct?
Correct.
And are you able to tell what in the note was modified?
No, there's no real auditable log to look back and see how many times it's been modified over the course of its life. I was able to do some amount of recovery to see that on the day it was created, it started in a very similar way to as it's written on the 24th or 23rd of January, but the exact changes between when it first was created and the last time it was modified, we don't know.
And then you also looked at messages, correct?
Correct.
And were you able to compile the messages that were sent and received between the defendant and her mother and the defendant and her husband on January 24th, 2023?
I did, yes.
And were you able to arrange it using the tools that you use in a way that looks like you might see it on your phone?
Yeah, I tried to prepare it in a report which would be easy for any viewer to understand based on their own usage of text messaging.
So showing you page 19 of your report, what we have here is an enlarged version of what you might see on your phone, correct?
Correct.
And so is this in blue, is this Lindsay's phone?
It is. The messages in blue on the right would be outgoing. The messages in grey on the left would be incoming.
And so we have a photo being sent out from Lindsay's phone to her mother, and then a reply coming back, and that pattern goes on and on, correct?
Correct.
And then looking at page 22, you were able to do the same in terms of her contact with Patrick Clancy that day, correct?
I did, yes.
And so in gray, we have Patrick Clancy sending a message to Lindsay Clancy, and in blue is the response, correct?
Correct.
Were you, were you also able to look at the phone calls that occurred either incoming or outgoing to the defendant's phone on January 24th, 2023?
I did, yes.
And looking at page 27 and 28 of your report, first on page 27, just looking closely at the phone, here in the report it says 2024. Is that a typo? Is that supposed to be 2023?
That's meant to be 2023, yes, I apologise.
Okay. And so what we see here, can you just tell us what these columns are?
Yeah, the start time of the call, typically when it is answered by the recipient, the end time when the call's ended. The metadata is information including who the call was to or from, how long the call lasted, and then the reason that the call disconnected, and then a record ID. So if you had the database, you could go in and find this record based on the ID number.
And looking at page 28, this is the continuation of that table regarding the phone calls, is that correct?
Correct.
And so what we're seeing here is at 17:33, which would be 5:33 p.m., there's an incoming call from Patrick to Lindsay's phone, is that correct?
Correct.
And it says duration 8 seconds, 0 seconds. Does that mean it was not answered?
In this case, it was an unanswered call.
And then at 5:34 p.m., roughly a minute later, there's an outgoing call from Lindsay's phone to Patrick's, correct?
Correct.
And that call was approximately 14 seconds?
Correct.
And then at 6:09 p.m., another incoming call from Patrick to Lindsay that went unanswered?
That's correct.
Now, you also, in a section you call media, you have some photographs that were taken from the phone with some metadata included, correct?
Correct.
What is metadata?
Metadata is information about that photograph. It could be the device that captured it, the time that it was captured, the location, information about the lens, the lighting, etc.
And so looking at page 29 of your report, just for an example, what we have here are 3 photographs, correct?
Correct.
And the metadata for the first one shows captured at South Shore Medical Center, is that correct?
Correct.
How were you able to determine that's where that photograph was taken?
The metadata of the photo included the latitude and longitude where the image was captured. I took that latitude and longitude and looked on Google Maps to see a physical address. In this case, it came down to the South Shore Medical Center.
And then the third photo here, that shows captured at the home address on Summer Street, is that correct?
Correct.
And then you looked at device usage. What is device usage?
Device usage would relate to how the user is operating the device. So when they have it unlocked, locked, what applications being used at any particular time. Essentially anything which is not a message or a phone call or results in additional data like that.
And looking at page 32 of your report, in that device usage log, it shows that the last time the device usage